The peace summit. Let's get into it. What happened? Who
Okay, well, let's start by
pictures?
not calling it a peace summit. What should we call it? Another word. Basically, so the two senior members of staff from Harry and Meghan's office met one senior member of staff from Buckingham Palace.
Yeah.
They had a drink, a coffee, and then they left. Is that a peace summit?
Well, yeah, because those, Harry and the King.
For years, the rumor refused to die. Was Prince Harry really King Charles's son? From red hair to whispered affairs, the questions never stopped. But now, a sealed letter from Princess Diana has shattered royal silence. Inside, a line so haunting it shook Buckingham Palace. Your real father loved you deeply. No names, no denial, just heartbreak. As Harry seeks answers and Charles says nothing, one truth is certain. This is the monarchy's most personal secret yet. A whisper that haunted the palace. For over 30 years, a single rumor refused to die. Was Prince Harry really King Charles's son? It started softly, in whispers, during the late 1990s, just after Princess Diana's death in 1997. People compared photos of young Harry to King Charles and saw nothing but differences. Harry's bright red hair, his strong jawline, and expressive eyes all stood in contrast to his older brother Prince William, who looked strikingly like his father. The whispers grew into tabloid headlines, then into full-blown conspiracy theories. By 2002, online forums had already dissected every royal photo, every family resemblance, and every public appearance. Royal commentators dismissed it as cruel gossip, but the public saw something else. Silence. Neither Buckingham Palace nor King Charles ever directly addressed the claims. In fact, Charles never once mentioned the rumor in his interviews or speeches. His refusal to comment was interpreted by some as royal dignity. But for others, silence spoke volumes. Was it indifference, or something he didn't want confirmed? Even during Harry's most rebellious years, his infamous Vegas scandal in 2012, military deployment in Afghanistan 2007 to 2012, and the explosive Oprah interview in 2021, the palace said nothing about his parentage. Royal biographers carefully danced around the topic. Every profile, every documentary, every official biography avoided the red-haired elephant in the room. The public noticed. As the monarchy clung to tradition, it refused to engage with the emotional question that followed Harry like a shadow. Who is your real father? The longer the palace remained silent, the more the narrative slipped from their hands. In modern media, silence doesn't protect. It provokes. And for Prince Harry, born in 1984, that silence turned a childhood rumor into a lifetime question. With the royal family never stepping in to shield him, the world felt entitled to guess, to mock, to assume. One tabloid editor famously said in 2010, "If the palace won't kill the story, they're feeding it." And so the whisper became legend. If the palace won't kill the story, they're feeding it. UK tabloid editor, 2010. But rumors can only survive so long without fire. And in 2025, the match was struck. A sealed envelope marked "For Harry, when the time is right," was discovered in a private vault. What lay inside would ignite the deepest royal mystery of our time. A letter written by Diana, hidden for nearly 3 decades, with a line so raw, so haunting, it brought Harry's quiet question roaring back to life. And the palace? Once again, it chose silence. But this time, the silence couldn't stop the truth. The letter that changed everything. In the summer of 2025, a royal staff member clearing out a private archive stumbled upon a worn mahogany box. It was unmarked except for a handwritten tag. For Harry, when the time is right. Tucked inside, beneath personal keepsakes and pressed flowers, was a folded letter. Written in Princess Diana's own script, the page was dated July 1, 1997, just weeks before her tragic death in Paris on August 31st. It had never been opened, until now. The letter wasn't long, only 7 lines, but one sentence shattered everything. Your real father loved you deeply. He just couldn't stay. No name, no explanation, just emotion. The sentence hit like lightning. Had Diana meant this metaphorically, referring to Charles's emotional absence? Or was this a confession, one she couldn't voice publicly but felt Harry deserved to know in time? The lack of clarity was deafening, and yet it was her handwriting, her seal, her timing. No one could deny that part. When Prince Harry received the letter, palace sources say he read it alone in Montecito, seated in the study where he wrote spare. Meghan Markle reportedly stood outside the door, giving him privacy. According to insiders, Harry read the letter 3 times before saying aloud, "So that's what she meant." He didn't cry, he didn't shout, but something in him shifted. A quiet unraveling. Years of emotional confusion, public scrutiny, and royal pressure came crashing into that one line. The impact went beyond family. It spread like wildfire. By July 2025, leaks had hit the press. Tabloid headlines screamed, "Diana's hidden letter uncovered." Social media erupted. Hashtags like #Diana was right and #Real Father Mystery trended globally. But while the world debated DNA and drama, Harry sat in silence. His team gave no comment, and Buckingham Palace issued its favorite phrase, "We do not comment on private family matters." But the matter was no longer private. It had become a global reckoning. Your real father loved you deeply. He just couldn't stay. Princess Diana, July 1, 1997. The world now knew what Diana had written, but the mystery deepened. Who had kept the letter hidden all this time? For nearly 28 years, it had sat in darkness, untouched and unread. Who decided Harry wasn't ready? Who had the power to bury something so explosive for so long? As fingers pointed toward one familiar figure, the story twisted again. Because some secrets aren't hidden out of fear. They're hidden out of love, or out of strategy. And, in this case, maybe both. Paul Burrell. All signs pointed to Paul Burrell, Diana's loyal butler and personal confidant. He was more than a staff member. He was family. Diana once called him "my rock," and in her final years, he guarded her world like a silent sentinel. The discovery of the letter in 2025 didn't surprise insiders. Many believed Burrell had known about it all along. Some even claim he placed it there himself, tucked away in the vault with a plan, to reveal it only when the world, or Harry, was ready. Burrell, now aged 67, has long held Diana's secrets. From Kensington Palace to courtrooms, he's testified, written books, and fought lawsuits. But he never once mentioned this letter. Not in his 2003 autobiography, not in his interviews, not even in leaked recordings. That silence now appears deliberate. Did he withhold it to protect Harry from emotional damage in his youth? Or was it to avoid setting fire to the royal establishment? Either way, the reveal has changed everything. But palace sources say Burrell wasn't the only one who knew. Whispers point to 2 senior royal aides and a former legal advisor who may have also known the letter's contents. Some claim the document had been briefly reviewed in 1998 and marked too sensitive for public release. The decision? Lock it up. Wait, hope it fades. But letters like this don't fade. They ferment, they intensify, and when they resurface, they carry more than ink. They carry consequences. To some, Paul Burrell is a guardian of Diana's legacy. To others, he's a man who waited too long. One royal commentator said, "If the letter had surfaced 10 years earlier, maybe the family wouldn't be so broken." But Burrell has stayed quiet, even now. No interviews, no statements, just silence. A silence that feels familiar. A silence that now wraps around Charles, William, and the crown itself. Diana's truth has surfaced, but the damage may already be done. If the letter had surfaced 10 years earlier, maybe the family wouldn't be so broken. Royal Insider 2025. But if Burrell held the letter, Charles held the weight. Because the next revelation didn't come from staff or siblings, it came from inside Balmoral Castle, where King Charles sat with the letter in hand. No cameras, no audience, just the words of a woman he once loved and may have betrayed. What he did next stunned even his closest advisors, and for the first time in years, King Charles wept. King Charles's silent collapse. The moment King Charles read the letter, the room changed. It happened at Balmoral Castle on a rainy afternoon in August 2025 during a private retreat. According to palace insiders, the king was alone, except for one senior aide and his valet. The envelope had been hand-delivered by a trusted courier. When Charles saw Diana's handwriting and the date, July 1, 1997, his hands reportedly trembled. It was the first time he'd seen it, and what it said shook him to his core. He read it silently, then read it again. The line, "Your real father loved you deeply. He just couldn't stay," hung in the air. For Charles, it wasn't just the message. It was the implication. Was Diana accusing him of emotional abandonment, or hinting that Harry was never his son? That ambiguity, combined with the decades-long rumors, reportedly brought Charles to tears. He closed the letter, placed it on the table, and said nothing for several minutes, one source claimed. Then he wept. Camilla, now queen consort, was informed immediately. She arrived within the hour. Reports say she begged Charles to make a public statement, to shut this down before it spreads, but the king refused. "She had her truth," he allegedly muttered. "Let her speak it." The room fell into silence. For Charles, this was no longer a rumor. It was Diana's final word, and it had arrived, decades too late. What haunted him most wasn't the public backlash or even the question of paternity. It was the realization that he had never told Harry the truth about anything, not about the affair, not about the doubt, not even about the emotional void that may have shaped Harry's identity. This wasn't just about DNA, a royal historian later said. It was about a father who never stepped forward when it counted. She had her truth. Let her speak it. King Charles, 2025. But while Charles cried in silence, another figure inside the palace burned with rage. Prince William, loyal to the throne and fiercely protective of his family, had learned of the letter days before his father. And his reaction wasn't grief. It was fury. Because to him, this wasn't just a mother's confession, it was a weapon. timed to wound a monarchy already fighting for its future. What William said behind closed doors revealed the depth of the storm brewing between two brothers, once inseparable. Prince William's quiet rage. Prince William was never meant to see the letter, but in late July 2025, a senior aide leaked its contents to him during a routine security briefing. William, now 43, reportedly froze after reading the line. His response? 5 simple words. Not now, not like this. Those close to him say he felt betrayed, not just by Diana's timing, but by the palace's decision to keep the letter sealed for 28 years. Behind closed doors, William's anger turned personal. He reportedly blamed Prince Harry for reigniting the rumors. He should have left it buried, he told aides. There's nothing good that comes from this. But more than anger, there was hurt. William had spent decades defending the monarchy, his future, his legacy. And now his own mother's words were being used to question the very bloodline he would one day inherit. The tension between William and Harry, already strained after Spare and the Netflix docuseries in 2022, now hit a breaking point. Sources say the brothers have not spoken since the letter's release. Not a phone call, not a text. Just silence. This broke him, one Kensington Palace staffer whispered. He's grieving a brother who's still alive. To William, Harry didn't just uncover a letter. He reopened a wound that might never close. Despite the emotional storm, William stayed true to his royal training. He gave no public statement. He continued engagements, smiled for the cameras, and remained silent. But insiders say his mood shifted sharply. He reportedly canceled multiple meetings, including one with Prime Minister Helen Davis. Behind palace gates, it was clear. The crown's most stable figure was shaken and furious. He's grieving a brother who's still alive. Kensington Palace staffer, 2025. But William's silence only made the world ask louder. Who was Diana really talking about? That one line in her letter, ambiguous and heartbreaking, sparked a global guessing game. Everyone had a theory, and 3 names rose to the surface fast. Men from Diana's past, men with ties to her heart. As the public dove back into history, new light was shed on the most enduring royal question of our time. If not Charles, then who? 3 men and 1 question. The question echoed across headlines. Who was Diana talking about? For decades, royal watchers speculated, but now, with her handwritten letter public, focus returned to 3 men: James Hewitt, Barry Manicky, and Hasnat Khan. Each had a role in Diana's life. Each left a mark. And each, in his own way, could be seen as the man who couldn't stay. James Hewitt, the most obvious suspect, had an affair with Diana for 5 years. They met in 1986, during Harry's early childhood. Both admitted the relationship publicly. And the resemblance between Hewitt and Harry, red hair, face shape, fueled decades of gossip. But Hewitt always insisted he met Diana after Harry's 1984 birth. Still, doubts lingered. Timelines are foggy when secrets are kept, one journalist noted. Barry Manicky, Diana's former bodyguard, was someone she described as the greatest love of my life. Their connection, though never officially confirmed, was emotionally charged. In 1987, he died in a sudden motorbike accident. Some claimed it was orchestrated, others called it coincidence. Either way, his departure fit Diana's line. He just couldn't stay. Could she have meant him, not biologically, but emotionally? Hasnat Khan, a British Pakistani heart surgeon, was the man Diana nearly married. They dated from 1995 to 1997, and Diana once called him my soulmate. But their love couldn't survive the pressures of royal life. He ended things weeks before her trip to Paris with Dodi Fayed. Could she have trusted him with a truth she didn't dare tell the world? Was the letter a veiled tribute to him? Or was the line symbolic, about Charles himself? Some believe Diana used real father to imply emotional, not biological distance. That while Charles was the legal father, he never showed Harry the love he needed. As one royal analyst said, this line isn't just DNA, it's legacy, and legacy is emotional. Without a name, the world is left to guess, and every theory opens another door. This line isn't just DNA, it's legacy, and legacy is emotional. Royal Analyst 2025. Still, one name stood out above all, and not because Diana named him, but because the world did. James Hewitt, once a quiet cavalry officer, was suddenly front-page news again. The man at the center of every visual comparison, every theory, every whisper. But this time, something was different. Because for the first time in decades, Hewitt said nothing. And that silence sent more shockwaves than any interview ever could. James Hewitt's silence. James Hewitt. For decades, his name hovered around Prince Harry's like a phantom. The affair between Diana and Hewitt, which began in 1986, lasted nearly 5 years. Diana confirmed it in her 1995 BBC interview, stating, "Yes, I adored him. Yes, I was in love with him." That was all the world needed. The similarities in appearance between Hewitt and Harry, especially their red hair, height, and facial structure, became internet fuel, sparking comparisons, memes, and endless DNA speculation. But in every past wave of rumor, Hewitt spoke out. He always insisted that he met Diana after Harry was born in 1984, not before. He even told the Sunday Mirror in 2002, "There's no possibility that I am Harry's father." That quote had once helped calm the speculation. But in 2025, when Diana's letter surfaced, the world expected Hewitt to repeat that denial. He didn't. Not a word. No interviews. No statements, just silence. And that silence felt calculated. Why the sudden hush? Friends close to Hewitt, now 67, claim he's done with royal drama. Others suspect he's staying silent to avoid legal consequences, or perhaps emotional fallout. He's not the same man he was in the 90s, one insider said. He's older, tired. He doesn't want to be the headline again. But public interest doesn't care about fatigue. The moment he went quiet, speculation exploded. TikTok videos comparing Harry and Hewitt's features racked up over 100 million views in less than a week. And yet, in all that noise, there was no proof. No DNA test. No letter from Hewitt. No royal statement. Just a haunting line from Diana, and a man the world had already judged. In truth, silence from Hewitt gave more power to the rumor than any denial ever could. As one social media post put it, "No comment speaks louder than, 'I didn't do it.'" But perhaps Hewitt's silence wasn't guilt. Maybe it was self-preservation. No comment speaks louder than, "I didn't do it." Viral post 2025. But while the public debated over James Hewitt, one person stayed absolutely still. Prince Harry. No press conference, no Netflix series, not even a podcast. But behind closed doors, something major was happening. Sources confirmed Harry had quietly ordered a private DNA test, with no palace involvement. he needed to know the truth, not for the media, but for himself. And when the results came back, they confirmed what many hoped, but left Harry more conflicted than ever before. The DNA test that didn't heal. In September 2025, just weeks after Diana's letter went public, Prince Harry did what the palace had avoided for years. He took a DNA test. According to insiders in Montecito, the process was handled by a private genetics lab in California, under the strictest confidentiality. Only Meghan Markle, one private doctor, and a trusted legal advisor were involved. The results were returned in under 10 days, and the answer was clear. 100% biological match to King Charles III. That confirmation should have ended the debate. And legally, it did. But emotionally, the storm inside Harry didn't stop. According to one friend, he didn't cry. He just stared at the envelope for a long time. Then he said, "So I was his son. He just didn't act like it." For Harry, the real wound wasn't doubt about bloodlines. It was about the decades of emotional distance from Charles. The DNA brought clarity, but it didn't bring peace. In interviews over the years, especially in Spare and his 2021 Oprah interview, Harry described Charles as emotionally unavailable, distant, and cold. He was there, Harry wrote, but he wasn't there. So even with scientific proof, the emotional gap remained vast. Charles may have been his father by blood, but Diana's words still haunted Harry. He just couldn't stay. Whether she meant Charles or someone else, Harry felt that absence, not just in childhood, but every day since. Still, Harry refused to make a public announcement. His team confirmed no press release was planned. But within palace walls, the news spread quickly. Senior aides quietly breathed a sigh of relief. At least legally, the line of succession was intact. But emotionally, the monarchy had never felt more fractured. Harry's relationship with William was still frozen. His bond with Charles, even with proof of blood, remained distant. Because truth may answer questions, but it doesn't always mend hearts. So I was his son. He just didn't act like it. Prince Harry, Private Conversation, 2025. Diana's truth echoes beyond the grave. Despite the DNA results, the line from Princess Diana's letter refused to die. Your real father loved you deeply. He just couldn't stay. The public clung to those words, not as a biological confession, but as an emotional map. What did Diana mean? Why so vague? And why now, nearly 28 years after her tragic death in 1997? It wasn't just a message. It felt like a key, a final, whispered attempt to help Harry find his way in a world that never fully embraced him. Some insiders believe Diana's letter was written during the final 6 months of her life, between March and August 1997, as her relationship with Dodi Fayed grew and her distance from the royal family widened. She may have sensed the danger around her. Some even suggest she knew she was being watched. She was leaving breadcrumbs, said a former royal staffer, not to expose the crown, but to protect her son from feeling lost forever. Diana had always been ahead of her time. Her interviews, her tapes, even her body language told a different story from the one polished by palace protocol. In this letter, she didn't accuse. She didn't name. She simply offered Harry one thing he'd never had: emotional closure. But instead of giving answers, the letter sparked more questions. Not just about Charles, or Hewitt, or truth, but about how the monarchy handles its own family's pain. And in that pain, the public found purpose. Support for Harry surged. In October 2025, a global poll showed that 68% of respondents in the UK, Canada, and Australia believed Harry deserved to know the truth. Over 72% agreed the palace had mishandled Diana's legacy. Newspapers ran retrospectives. Documentaries aired across BBC, Netflix, and Sky News. Diana's voice had returned, not just in writing, but in every corner of media. Not as scandal, but as warning, and as a mother's love, still louder than protocol. She was leaving breadcrumbs, not to expose the crown, but to protect her son. Former royal staffer, 2025. But if Diana's letter brought clarity to Harry, it brought something else to the monarchy: chaos. Constitutional lawyers, political advisors, and senior aides began asking a question no one had dared before. Could this affect succession? Because even with DNA confirmation, the shadow of doubt had taken root. Royal legitimacy isn't just about blood. It's about public confidence. And now, whispers about Harry's paternity were threatening the very foundation of the crown. The next crisis was not emotional. It was legal. Could this change the line of succession? At first glance, the answer is no. The UK Succession to the Crown Act of 2013, like those before it, doesn't require DNA proof. What matters is legitimacy at birth, being born within wedlock. Prince Harry, born on September 15, 1984, during Charles and Diana's marriage, meets that requirement. So by law, he remains fifth in line to the throne. But law is one thing. Public trust is another. And once trust cracks, the crown becomes vulnerable. Behind closed doors, Parliament aides and legal experts met in November 2025 to review the crisis. Could future cases, especially those involving grandchildren or great-grandchildren, trigger DNA-based verification? Would public pressure demand new protocols? It's not about Harry losing titles, one MP explained. It's about protecting the monarchy's credibility going forward. The idea of DNA requirements for royals, once laughable, was now very real, especially after this. Even more unsettling was the global reaction. In Australia, where Republican sentiments already run high, Prime Minister Julia Kwan hinted at revisiting the nation's ties to the monarchy. It raises deep questions about identity and lineage, she said in a press conference. In Canada, polls showed over 60% support for removing the monarchy if it could not maintain transparency and moral clarity. This wasn't just a family issue anymore, it was becoming a Commonwealth crisis. Still, Buckingham Palace remained silent. No statement, no legal reform proposals. No acknowledgement of the chaos swirling outside its iron gates. But insiders said it all. Private lawyers were now reviewing succession policy for the first time in nearly 70 years. Not to strip Harry of titles, but to prevent another Diana letter from shaking the throne ever again. The monarchy had survived wars, divorces, abdications, but could it survive a 7-word message? The DNA may say one thing, but Diana's words left something deeper behind. A wound the crown can't cover. Harry found truth, but not peace. Charles remains silent, and the world keeps asking, what was he hiding? And why? Because this wasn't just about blood. It was about identity, trust, and love, lost inside royal walls. And as the echo of that letter grows louder, one thing is clear. The story of Prince Harry is far from over.